In this skill session, we're going to cover the hinge. The hinge is one of your 4 fundamental movement patterns that we cover in this 8-week strength training course. The hinge is another one of the movement patterns that's commonly neglected. Many of us are more familiar with the squat. The biggest difference between squat and hinge is that you're displacing your hips back. You're pushing your hips back and maintaining a long spine as your spine becomes more horizontal. We find this movement all the time in our daily life, whether you're bending over to grab something or lifting heavy furniture. The hinge pattern uses the glutes, hamstrings, and the entire back. It's also great for improving your posture and helping prevent back injuries. Throughout this strength journey, we're going to use the hinge a lot throughout our workouts. You'll see it when we deadlift, do bridges, and even hip thrusts. Now I'm going to show you some common cues and mistakes that we find with the hinge. One of the biggest mistakes is that we tend to squat more. So having a squatty hinge would look something like this. So think about your knees staying over your ankles. That's going to help us push our hips back so that we're really focusing on engaging the glutes and hamstrings and not so much the quads. Another common mistake that you'll find with the hinge is having too much flexion or extension in the spine. You don't want to let the belly hang out or round through the spine. The goal is to aim for a neutral spine. That looks a little bit different for everyone, but you want to find the middle point in between too much extension and too much flexion. I like to think getting long through my spine and making sure we maintain core engagement. Focusing on really trying to feel our core is actually going to help us find that neutral spine better. And it's also going to help us from keeping our bellies from hanging out at the bottom, which is another common mistake that we find with the hinge. One cue that I love to use for the hinge is breaking at the hips. So thinking about chopping the hips and displacing the hips all the way back. 2 other mistakes that you'll find with the hinge is hinging too low. So instead of hinging for a stretch, I'm actually going to focus on that same cue, chopping the hips, but I'm going to still squeeze the hamstrings as much as I can while keeping the shoulders above the hips. So it'll look like this. And I'm going to show you another mistake that's super common. We usually tend to lean back at the top because we think we're getting better glute squeeze or more engagement. The goal is to get tall up towards the sky, squeeze the midsection, and engage the legs. That is going to be a lot safer for your spine, and it's going to get you better results too. And when it comes to foot placing, generally we like to place our feet about shoulder width apart for hinging. We're going to show you 3 drills to help you nail the hinge. The first drill is going to be a tracing hinge. So we're going to grab a band or a towel, anything you have handy, and what we're going to do is we're going to place it against our thighs. From here, I'm going to trace down. I'm going to try to push my hips back while maintaining that vertical shin that we talked about. I'm only going to go as low as I can control and come up and stand tall. Now I'm going to show you the wall hinge. With this drill, we're actually going to learn how to displace our hips back. So here it goes. I'm going to step about 1 foot in front of the wall, keeping my feet shoulder width apart. And then I'm going to push the hips back so that my glutes tap the wall, and I'm going to come right back up. Notice how my shins stay vertical, my spine stays nice and long, and I'm displacing my hips as far back as I can. Your last drill that you're going to learn in your workouts are a glute bridge. So a glute bridge is going to teach you how to hinge from a different position other than standing. What this glute bridge teaches us is how to hinge from a horizontal position. So we apply all the same cues that we learned from a standing hinge. I'm breaking at the hips, and then when I come up, I'm making sure not to overextend. I'm planking at the top, creating tension in the hamstrings, glutes, and abs. I'm sure you learned something valuable in this skill session. Hope you apply it to your training.